What's up, ladies and gents? xcalizorz here, bringing you some Monday Night Combat. And what this video is going to be is an endorsement guide of sorts. Honestly, I don't know why I've put this off for so long. I have seen a multitude of comments asking me, how should I set up so-and-so class, and what do endorsements do, and unfortunately, those questions have gone unanswered until now. I don't know, chalk it up to my laziness. I know, I apologize. But anyway, what this is meant to be is, is to kind of give you a helping hand as to, what exactly the endorsements do. Like, I don't want this to be, this is what I use, and that's what you should use too. That's not at all what I want to happen. I mean, you could use my setup, but I would advise against that because, what works for me may not necessarily work for you, because what endorsements are, or they're supposed to complement your play style. And, chances are you don't play like me, and I don't play like you. So, you have to find, what mix of endorsements works for you and all that fun stuff. So, anyway, let's get started. And first things first, what exactly are endorsements? And pretty much what these are kind of like perks or enhancements. They augment your character in special ways, and like rate of fire, your gun will shoot faster, armor, you can take more damage, accuracy, you have a tighter spread, critical. Actually, that's pretty much junk. Don't ever use that. Critical's terrible. But yeah, anyway, first things first, you get 3 endorsements, and they're set up in a way so that you have a gold endorsement, a silver endorsement, and a bronze endorsement. And what that pretty much means is whatever is in your gold endorsement will get the most bang for buck. So silver will be somewhere in the middle, and bronze will be, it's a nice little bonus, it's just, make up some numbers here. Let's say, for instance, armor in the gold slot will give me 100 health. But if we switch that around and drop it to bronze, armor will only give me 20. I don't know if the I don't know the exact percentages of how much you get per sponsor, but that's just to give you a basic idea of how they work. So whatever's in your bronze will that will be what defines your whatever you're playing, I guess. I guess I shouldn't say that, it's not really class defining, but that's what will give you the most effect. And next, pretty much whatever class you're going to be playing, from sniper to assassin to tank, chances are you're probably going to be running armor and rate of fire. And the reason why that is because these 2 endorsements determine how much damage you deal and how much damage you take. And when it comes to shooters, that is really what it comes down to, is how fast you can dish out the damage and how much you can take yourself, which is why in Call of Duty 4, Juggernaut and Stopping Power were by far the most popular perks to use, because they affect how much damage that you deal or take from other players and to other players and all that fun stuff. So, something to keep in mind, regardless of what class you're playing, armor and rate of fire will somehow find their way into your endorsement setup. It is pretty lame, but, unfortunately that's the way it is. And I'm sure if you've played Monday Night Combat for any period of time, chances are you've realized how terrible the default classes are. And that's because, those default classes lack armor or rate of fire. I think the assault default class is something like skill regeneration, rate of fire, clip size, or something like that. It's, without armor, you die way too fast, and there's just no getting around that. You need to use armor, And I guess depending on what class you're playing, you might be able to get away with rate of fire, but armor is by far the most important endorsement to have in Monday Night Combat. So, yeah. Armor, pretty important. But anyway, on to the gunner. How I like to set up my gunner class is I use armor, rate of fire, and accuracy. In no particular order. You know, it just depends on the people I'm playing against. And the reason why that is because on PC, people have superior accuracy, and the gunner is by far the least mobile class in the game. He's slow, he's fat, he's an easy target, and you do not have to be Fatality himself to, you know, pick apart a gunner. So, you know, the way I get around that is I need more health, and that's why I put armor at gold. On console, it's probably a little more lenient. On console, I actually have armor down to bronze, because that will allow you to survive an assassin back grapple, at least until they upgrade to the sword. And I have, I think, rate of fire on gold and accuracy on silver. And this is something to keep in mind if you're running rate of fire on gold. And this actually probably only applies to console players or PC players who have mediocre machines. Actually, I'm not really sure how that would work on the PC end, but I'm sure if you've played console for any amount of time, you've probably had, you know, a game here and there get really, really framey, i.e. like a slideshow, like you were watching a slideshow. And if you have rate of fire in that instance, rate of fire is not doing you a lick of good, because how fast you can fire is, you know, pretty much limited by how optimized the game is running, or how efficient the game is running frame-wise. So, you know, if you're, you know, trying to, you know, shred people with your minigun with gold rate of fire and it's super framey, you are not getting any benefit at all, because the fire rate is capped by, you know, how many frames per second you're currently getting. But something to also keep in mind is that rate of fire also affects your mortars, your secondary, and if you have a slow mortar, chances are you're going to be spending a lot of time taking out turrets, whereas a gold rate of fire mortar can, you know, destroy turrets pretty handily, and that will also hamper your ability to push back bots if you feel the need to do that. So just something to keep in mind. So basically, actually I should probably go over these other endorsements too. Crits, speed, and juice, and reload speed are generally considered to be the most useless endorsements out there, or maybe that's just my own opinion and people I play with. Honestly, these really don't give you that much of a benefit. Like, none of these are worth dropping for any of these endorsements. Crit, I don't even know if the numbers are out there to look at, but, you know, even with it at gold and not having it at all, I find that I do adequate damage regardless of what class I'm playing. I guess it's just kind of a nice bonus to have if it's there, but, you know, armor and rate of fire will give you more bang for your buck. So stay away from crits. Speed, that might actually help on gold, but since the gunner is by default is a very slow moving class, but, you know, like I said, I don't really find that to be worth dropping any of the three over here. And the gunner really lacks a mobility talent. You know, like, you know, whereas a tank, you know, he's also pretty slow, but he also has charge, which he can use to get out of tight situations, and, you know, the gunner lacks something like that. You know, if you get surrounded by a couple dudes, you know, there's just no getting out of that, so I don't really know if speed would help too much. Skill recovery is, while it's not really a bad endorsement to have, the only skill you should be using as a gunner is probably slam, and maybe the occasional grapple here and there if the opportunity presents itself. But if you're using those skills, or if you find you need those skills more often than the default cooldown allows for, you're probably playing your gunner wrong. Or maybe you're playing against too many assassins and you should be playing tank. Or, yeah, slam and grapple, or actually slam to a higher extent, is pretty much the only skill you're using while you're playing as a gunner. The grapple is kind of a gimmick that you really shouldn't be using. But, it does have its uses here and there, but, I mean, you really shouldn't be focusing on using your skills too often. They're just kind of oh shit buttons. And like I said, if you find you need it more often than the default cooldown allows, you're probably doing it wrong. Juice, what this does is that it gives you a set amount of juice each time you spawn. I think on gold it gives 25% of a juice bar, which sounds pretty good on paper, but unfortunately that juice is a one-time thing. So if you were to, let's say for instance, build up juice, use juice, go through the 10-second Super Saiyan mode, your juice bar would go all the way down and that's it. Juice as an endorsement is a one pump jump. I mean, that's all you get. It doesn't augment, anything at all. And you should really never, ever, ever use juice unless they change it drastically in the near future. So, juice, bad endorsement, never ever use that. Health recovery is actually, I think, pretty underrated because I use this on bronze on my assassin, and I notice the effect it gives. It's pretty blatant, I guess. I think it pretty much reduces the cooldown to heal to full, or to start the healing process. Like, you get damaged and then you have to go find cover to start healing up. Like, it shortens that process. It may regenerate faster, or it may also regenerate your health faster, like at a flat percentage. Actually, I'm not sure, but if you think you don't need accuracy, you might want to give health recovery a whirl. I know it makes a world of difference on my assassin. It makes a world of difference on my assassin, and if you don't think you need accuracy, then there's a third you can use. Clip size is actually pretty lol-tastic on a gunner, especially if you have it in the gold slot, because I think it effectively doubles the amount of ammo you get in your clip or magazine, sorry. And what that pretty much equates to is you holding right trigger fully revved up for a good 15-20 seconds maybe. And if you have a support that is heal leashing you, or if you have a support on leash who is constantly healing you, then more power to you. It's fun, but I usually don't have the benefit of support healing when I play, so I find rate of fire to give me a better bang for buck. And reload speed, don't use this. This is bad. Don't ever use that. And all right, time to move on to the next class, tank. Now this is where things actually get interesting, is because tank is the class with the most health, and he has a passive which increases his health, so you're actually a little bit more lenient with what you get to choose as a tank. Personally, I use speed, armor, and where is it? Skill recovery. And the reason why I don't use rate of fire is because I'm not exactly an ace with the railgun. And I find that the jet gun on its own does shoot pretty fast, and it's a pretty good weapon, burninating people and all on its own. So I find I don't really need it. But that's not to say it doesn't affect it though. And yeah, so if you find that you're more of a railgun kind of guy, rate of fire is the endorsement for you. And I actually like to use gold speed because I actually, for whatever reason, I really notice its effect. And I'm not much for the itchy trigger finger or rate of fire. I don't know why I said that. the rate of fire, because I'm not good with the railgun, and so I figured, hey, speed, why not? I mean, it makes a huge difference, in my opinion. And armor, that's pretty self-explanatory. Even though the tank does have the most health, even though the tank has the most health, that does not exempt them from, being a very easy target to kill. As I'm sure, if you've played Monday Night Combat, a tank with armor on gold and a fully upgraded passive can take a lot of damage before he goes down. And something to keep in mind is if you run armor on gold, you can actually survive a katana back grapple or a sniper headshot. So if you've got assassins and snipers that are really steaming their beans, armor gold, and there you go. And I like to use skill recovery because the tank is a pretty skill-driven class. You will pretty much be using charge and product grenade off of cooldown every time. And if you're going to use skill recovery, you either use it in gold or bronze. I think I was actually told that having skill recovery in silver is pretty negligible compared to bronze, so something to keep in mind. If you use skill recovery on gold, you will be charging, I think, every 3.5 seconds or something like that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Like, you could technically charge someone, product grenade them, and then by the time they recover from that, you can charge them again. I mean, the amount of times you can charge in a 10-second span with gold skill recovery is pretty mind-boggling, so something to keep in mind. Clip size, don't get any bright ideas, thinking, oh, if I put clip size in gold, that will double the damage of my Death Blossom. No, it does not work like that. What was I gonna say? Yeah, Death Blossom is capped at a certain amount of damage, and having more ammo won't increase the amount of damage it does. It will let you spam the flamethrower for a bit longer, railgun without reloading, but that, like I said before, clip size is I guess nice to have if you have a support leash, but in most situations you'll get more benefit from another perk. Reload speed, I've actually seen a few posts saying of how good it is, if you Death Blossom, because if you Death Blossom, that drains all of your ammo and you spend time reloading, and it speeds up that process from Death Blossom to Death Blossom if you are a mighty right-click spammer or left trigger on console or what have you. So, I don't know. If you want to experiment, I mean, go ahead. Nothing's stopping you. In health recovery, no, I wouldn't recommend that for a tank. Tank has regen's pretty slow as it is, and it really doesn't speed it up at all, at least in my experience. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for tank. And let's go ahead and assassin. Assassin is pretty much cut and dry as to what you want to do. You want to have armor and rate of fire as your gold and silver, because the assassin is one of the lowest armor classes in the game, and having gold armor will allow you to survive tank charges, tank level 3 charges, and assassin katana face grapples. So this is pretty much mandatory. Rate of fire silver actually affects how fast you slash your sword, and that will help immensely with the bot clearing process and nailing down turrets while you're juiced and all that fun stuff. So that's pretty much mandatory. So the only question is to what you use as for your bronze, and it's pretty much either going to be health recovery, which is my personal favorite. Assassin has a pretty low health pool, so she actually regens very, very fast. I guess it'll get you back into the action faster, because once you start taking damage from people, you want to get the hell out of there and health recovery will help speed up that process of waiting and then going back into battle and all that. Other options you can use are skill recovery, because you will always be using cloak, you'll always be using sprint, and the faster your smoke bombs are up, the better. So if you find you need your skills more often, skill recovery is there. And I don't know, the assassin's already pretty fast, but I don't know if this is like I said earlier in the video, I think this is all up to personal preference. So gold armor, this is a must. Silver rate of fire is a must, and for your bronze, it's either health recovery, speed, or health or skill recovery, health recovery. Yeah, there we go. And for the asshole in you who wants to only use me gremlin and shoot shurikens across spawns, I would recommend probably something like clip size, rate of fire, and accuracy, something like that. It's, if you don't know what only use me gremlins is, then you don't need to know. You don't need to know. We don't need more people doing that. But yeah. And assault. Now this is another one that's kind of up to variety. What I like to use on PC is I use rate of fire, armor, and accuracy. And the reason why I use rate of fire is it helps the grenade launcher a lot. And since the PC is not, excuse me, and since the PC is not, it doesn't have the fire rate frame issue cap, I use it on gold to help the assault rifle. The assault can pump out a lot of damage. But if you're on console, you probably want to use something like armor, rate of fire. You don't have to, you actually don't have to use rate of fire. Pretty much rate of fire, getting a little redundant there. Rate of fire is for the grenade launcher, usually. Like it does. I personally think it makes a huge difference on the assault rifle, but I've seen people play successful assaults without rate of fire, so your mileage may vary. And for number 3, I use accuracy because that will help with the hip fire, and it will, I guess, increase or decrease, or how should I put this? Like you won't have to like aim down the sights. I mean, you don't aim down the sights, but like you tighten or aim with your weapon, and you tighten the crosshair and move slowly. Like that's something I don't like doing, because the slower you are, the easier you are to hit, and that is something I am against, and accuracy helps with that. I would not put this any higher than bronze because I find the spread to be a little too tight for my liking, but it may work for you. Whatever floats your boat. All of this is pretty useless, but I have seen assaults who actually run skill recovery gold, because the assault is also another pretty ability intensive class. Like you always want to be using your bombs and your charges for mobility or escaping or damage and all that, and it doesn't hurt to have fly recharge a little faster either. So yeah, skill recovery ain't not too bad on an assault. Health recovery, not too bad. And you definitely want to use armor, because an assault without armor is pretty weak. I mean, he is just above the assassin and sniper in health. And you definitely want to use armor in 3 or 2, or if you're feeling bold, use it in 1. But yeah, you definitely want to have armor somewhere. Or maybe if you're crafty enough, I think you can actually get away without using armor. Just depends on who you're playing against. And for supports, now this is another class that you can have a little variety in. Personally, I use rate of fire, armor, and skill recovery. Rate of fire is primarily for the shotgun. To put it into, I guess, terminology that everyone can understand, it turns a pump action shotgun into an AA-12. Like, it makes that big of a difference. And having a shotgun as a reliable weapon or that's what rate of fire gold will do for you, is it will make your shotgun into a reliable weapon, because if you sneak up on anyone or get into shotgun range with gold rate of fire, you will just shred him. But without it, it might take a while to kill people. But yeah, I don't think it has any effect on the heal hurt gun. It may, but I don't think it makes that big of a difference. You definitely want to use rate of fire for the shotgun. You might actually get away with using it on silver, but I've found that this is what works best for me. Or you could switch armor and rate of fire with each other, and you know, it just depends on who you're playing against. But most successful supports that I've seen always use a setup like this, or very similar to this. But if you find that you are not, you know, too good with a shotgun and want to play more of a defensive support role, then you can drop that for something in favor of maybe health recovery or even speed, since the support is a pretty slow class and lacks, you know, the mobility. And it's kind of like a gunner, except that he doesn't even have a float, so something to keep in mind. Rate of fire, armor, skill recovery is what I would recommend. I've actually had a friend of mine tell me that with passive 3 and gold health recovery, that the speed of your health recovery is pretty amazing. So if you're feeling, I don't know, experimental, you can give something like this a whirl, or, you know, skill recovery gold, or armor 2, health recovery, something like that. So yeah. So, and there's only one more class to go, which is a sniper, and I don't recommend anyone to play a sniper because snipers are assholes. I'm sorry, I do not endorse sniper gameplay. Not at all. So I guess pretty much to recap, you know, the only endorsements out there that are worth using are rate of fire, armor, skill recovery, health recovery, accuracy, and maybe speed, depending on what class you're playing, and maybe even hip clip if you have a support leash on you. But, you know, for the most part, all of your setups are going to contain rate of fire, armor, and, you know, an endorsement that fits your class best, like accuracy would not help a support at all. So yeah, that's pretty much it off the top of my head regarding endorsements. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and I will do my best to get to them. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and go crush the noobs on Monday Night Combat. Do it now. Alright guys, peace out.